White Sox fans, welcome into the Sox On Tap post-game show presented by On Tap Sportsnet. Jonnie and Ani here alongside my guy, Sox Insane. We're the Thursday happy hour crew, Besnik. I think we've been on all Thursday shows except for one this year. So crack 'em. Cheers. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be here having a beer with you as always. I think the midweek afternoon game has been all us. But man, that was a doozy. I don't know how many scoring opportunities you can waste in one game, but we did a bunch of them, and it's a bummer. But you at least take the series.
Yeah, right. White Sox finally win a series, but unfortunately that last game, the one that we're discussing here today, this Thursday game, like you said, the title of this episode is wasted. They wasted multiple golden opportunities, at least 3 prime scoring chances. They were brutal with runners in scoring position, end up falling, it slips away late when the bullpen's already kind of taxed there. 7-3 the final. Twins take it. Finale from the White Sox, but series win. So I think a thought that you had shared with me right before we jumped on is kind of pertinent. The expectation going into the series. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we finally stopped the 10-game losing streak on Sunday. Some of that momentum carried over into the series. We took 2 of 3, and if you told me we were going to have a 3-game winning streak and win the series at home here against Minnesota, I would have been pretty satisfied. But when you lose like that in the final game, when the sweep was just right there within reach, it's a pretty tough pill to swallow. So hopefully the bad vibes don't carry over into this series here against Cincinnati.
Yeah, right. We're going to discuss more of that later in the show. But before we dive in really deep here, listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you go and subscribe to On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube. Click the little alert button so you know when we go live. Drop your comments in there and we can feature them on the screen. Love to hear your thoughts on the White Sox. As always, go and follow us on social media at Sox On Tap and at On Tap Sportsnet. All right, housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into this game. Starts off, we got to talk about some smooth, tasty gelato to start, Besnik. This is another excellent start by Lucas Giolito, and he gave you some length too.
Yeah, I mean, we've rarely, I think we may have had one other starting pitcher go 7 innings so far this year. Strong 7 innings, 2 hits. One of them, unfortunately, left the building. Only 3 walks, 7 Ks, 101 pitches. That's you can't ask for much more than that. And, he's got his ERA now well under 4 on the season. It's at 3.67. So Giolito's been our most reliable starter so far here in the early going, but unfortunately he left with the lead, but didn't get the win.
Yeah, right. That was unfortunate. With Giolito, just like you'd said, most reliable right now. People talked about it. I think it was kind of became a meme of sorts. Can you get back to 2021 Giolito? Right, or the bounce back from the worst pitcher in baseball, all of those. I mean, we all know the jokes, right? But it does. It's in a different fashion, though. He's no longer a 2-pitch pitcher, which we've touched on it on previous starts of his when he has been effective. But being able to utilize that slider is always so huge for him. So it's an encouraging sign going forward because the White Sox are going to need a lot more length, especially with how much they're taxing the bullpen. Flipping it to the bullpen, it was a kick in the nuts, man. Reynaldo Lopez comes in. He was absolute nails last year. I think he allowed 1 or 2 home runs all of last year. Hasn't been the greatest start to the season for him, and he gives up a solo shot in the 8th inning. Felt a little deflating at the time.
Yeah, he's had a rough year so far. He's got an ERA of 8.78. He got the first 2 batters. It looked like it was going to be a smooth inning, and then the 2-out solo homer, and the game's tied just like that. I know he left that start a little early on Sunday. I'm sorry, not start. His appearance on Sunday against the Rays a little early. He got roughed up in that one. They said he had bicep fatigue, so he wasn't even available in these first 2. So I don't know if that affected him in any way. I mean, the velocity was still there, was still up around 98 to 100. But yeah, you can only hold back some of the middle of the lineup bats like Correa went deep up Gio and Buxton off of Raylo. You can only hold those guys for so long. And 2 runs, it's not a ton of run support. So
yeah, right.
So yeah,
That's a good point. I want to keep it positive here, though, because I thought that was since we had a bullpen, did their job day yesterday, and held the lead through, and White Sox were, eventually able to pull that game out there. I thought, it was like the meme, the here it comes, the guy, waiting for like the storm like coming behind him. I thought that like the implosion was coming there. But the rest of I got to give credit until it got down to the 12th when we've already burned a bunch of arms there. Penn did their job. You got, outside of Lopez giving up that one long ball, that's the lone blemish on him. Then Graveman, Lambert, Bummer, they all do their jobs for innings and give the White Sox offense chances to cash in. But we'll get to this in a second. The offense just wasn't able to. But I do want to commend the rest of that bullpen staff because it's been a roller coaster of a year. And a lot of underperformance from guys that I think we thought were going to be the reliable ones, the guys that we needed to be the reliable ones in Liam Hendriks' absence. And, didn't go the way that we wanted to earlier on. But hey, if they're going to right the ship, just start playing better baseball in general, it's going to take increased levels of performance all across the board, position players, starting pitchers, bullpen too. But I think the bullpen gets a little bit more scrutiny because it's usually in crunch time, right?
Right, and they came up pretty clutch between the time when they ran out of pitchers at the end and Lopez's homer. Jimmy Lambert came in the 10th, got Correa to bounce into an inning-ending double play. That was huge. I think it was Bummer in the 9th who struck out the side. We're always on pins and needles every time we see Bummer come into the game because we don't know which version of Bummer we're going to get, but we got good Bummer today, and he did well. Graveman as well. I was a little worried when he came into the game because he doesn't usually pitch very well in back-to-back days. But these guys are taxed. These guys are running out of gas, and hopefully that doesn't. Hopefully they can figure something out going into the next series because these guys have had a lot of innings, and those guys like Raylo, for example, did not emerge to be the closer and fill in for Liam Hendriks, and now we're getting good contributions, luckily, from Keenan Middleton and Gregory Santos, but it hasn't been enough. We need somebody who can get those outs in pressure situations. Liam's that guy, and hopefully he'll be back soon. Sounds like he's inching closer to a return, so that's good news on the horizon.
Right. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit of injury news at the end there, but I think it's going to be paramount. Just, looking ahead to the weekend, need some length out of these starters. Gio, even though we didn't get the win today, I think that's a good set the tone performance. I think his rotation mates should take a page out of his book as they travel out to Cincinnati this weekend. All right, let's get down to it. Wasted. Title of this episode. 3 golden opportunities. Then I guess you have another one too. You could count. It wasn't as good as the first 3, but man, 8th, 9th, and 10th, all situations in which the White Sox should have pushed across a run, and they were damn close. They were actually this close. When you're looking at, this game of inches, Hanser Alberto turning and swinging into a pitch, when he was hit by it with the bases loaded, should have won the game, but they called that he swung on it. That was just one of the many instances here, Besnik. It was nice for the vibes to have Billy Hamilton back, but Billy the hitter that we saw in like around Memorial Day 2021, he ain't back. It's just Billy the base runner.
Yeah, and I'll take Billy the base runner. That was huge for him to just be able to swipe second as easily as he did, and then he moves up on the wild pitch, and that wasn't really a wild pitch that got away where you can move up easily. That's a wild pitch where only somebody who's Billy Hamilton or is almost as fast as Billy can get over to third and get him on third, no outs, and you completely squander that opportunity. And obviously the Alberto thing is just a really weird game across the board. There were a lot of strange plays like that, but unfortunately, this is who we've got to work with. You've got Berger on IL, Moncada on IL, Romy Gonzalez on IL. So it's Hanser Alberto and Lennon Sosa out there, and that's the best we've got, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. You can only play the hand that you're dealt, and unfortunately, it's kind of a shitty hand right now. I know we did get Tim Anderson back, and I know Moncada's going on a rehab stint soon. But when you did talk about the Twins being able to issue 4 intentional walks just to get to the batter of their choosing, I got to shout out our guy Matt Voodoo, who's always in the comments here, and he had a tweet, and it might be a little harsh, but he says having so many opportunities to walk guys to get to losers is hilariously terrible roster/lineup building. I think that just really highlights what we had just talked about there. And it's like, I know Hanser Alberto is just a kind of a journeyman veteran guy, usually good clubhouse presence, but my God, you're missing your, mainstays. He's supposed to be a bench guy, a last one off, the guy that you're calling off the bench for the defensive replacement in the extra innings or whatever it may be. When you're trying to lock down a game and you want your big guns to be able to do it. But like you said, they got to work with what they got. So it just felt, Lennon Sosa, he had a sack bunt one time, but then another time he struck out after 2 failed attempts in the 11th. And you just see that it's not that they don't have the skill level to do it. It's not honed there, and they are not the guys that you are used to counting on in those situations. So it's frustrating as fans to watch. And we're going to sit here and pick it apart. But at the same time, I feel for those guys because it's just the situation they're thrust into. And we talk, I think something that you hint on in all of your posts over at ontapsportsnet.com, especially when talking about relievers, it's, the White Sox haven't used certain guys in roles that will set them up for success. Unfortunately, they don't have any choice but for some of these bench guys to be playing here, and then obviously get a wild kind of game with pinch runners, pinch hitters, defensive replacements, all that kind of stuff thrown out of whack. Bench was empty by the end of the game.
Yeah, they went with what they did. I don't know. Maybe pinch running for Vaughn. I mean, that kind of bites you in the ass when you don't score there because now Vaughn's out of the lineup and Billy's in. Tim came off the bench. He was supposed to have the day off. He whiffs on that ground ball in the 12th. So just a lot of bad baseball today. It's just a very, very unfortunate the way that things unfolded here. It's just maddening to see that you getting a guy on in runners in scoring position, and I think they went 1 for 16 with runners in scoring position, and that bottom of the lineup, all these guys that stink. Alberto, Andrews, Sosa, and Zavala, a total of 2 hits, and Alberto's came as a double with 2 outs and nobody on, and they also combined for 8 strikeouts. The White Sox struck out 14 times. So, when you get down to that bottom of the lineup, there's not many guys that can hit. It's bad.
For our podcast audio only listeners, I was just doing the whole time Besnik was running off those numbers there, those atrocious numbers. I was doing the oof face meme. Oof. That's a size extra large. That's where we're at when you hear those kinds of numbers. But like I said, kind of a wild game. And just going back really quick to, I know you said it kind of comes back to bite you in the ass, but unfortunately that's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, pinch running for Andrew Vaughn in the 8th, because Hamilton's able to get to third, like you had said, doing a nice job with his base running there, steals second, gets third on a wild pitch. But then you get groundouts, and this is from some of your, Eloy, man, it's like if he could have just come through one more time for us. I know we've relied on him for the past 2 games, and he did provide the 2-run homer earlier in the game. But you would have liked just one more clutch hit there, and then that would have sealed it. Wouldn't have even had to go on to extras. So then we could have possibly saved some bullpen arms too going forward. So after that, Billy has to stay in, gets multiple at bats, and we know Billy the hitter is not here. So
no,
that's where we're at, talking about wasted opportunities in this game. Once again, Sox fall 7-3 in the series finale. So Besnik, let's talk injuries, because the reason why a lot of these guys are in here is because of injuries. We got some updates. Go ahead and dive in on first the one today. Jake Berger, Yohan Moncada. What's the news here?
Yeah, bummer about Jake Berger. He came out of the game in the 5th yesterday with the oblique strain, or they call it a left side discomfort or something along those lines, and turns out to be an oblique strain, which is a huge blow to the lineup. This is a team that's 22nd in Major League Baseball in home runs, and he leads the team with 7 of them. So that's a huge loss. Not having his bat, we could have absolutely used that today. But he's our backup third baseman because our starting third baseman is also out. Moncada's progressing from that back injury where he's got a protruding disc in his back, which sounds pretty nasty. But sounds like, per Pedro Grifol, he's going to start a rehab assignment this weekend. So hopefully he's back within the next week because we need middle infielders.
Right. You talk about those kind of transactions that come along with shuffling these guys around. Unfortunately, Berger going to the IL, like you mentioned, Moncada on track to return. But in the meantime, got to have guys fill the roster. So Lenny Sosa, after going back down Charlotte 2 games, apparently he hit well. I was listening to the radio broadcast for a little bit in the early innings of today's game, and Len had said that Sosa had a 3-hit game down at Charlotte. But I need to I've gotten ragged a little bit for, well, you got to give Sosa time and you got to give him some slack. And he always takes a while to adjust to a new level. If we're going on those grounds, since he technically went down, even though he wasn't there long, when he comes back, do we restart that time? He's at a new level again, technically. That's
right.
Kind of sarcastic as a remark when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same thing about him too, and the numbers all back it up. I don't know. I mean, that was a decent sample size. I think it was probably around 50 at bats, and the guy's hitting like 143. So sure, he needs an adjustment period, but I mean, you can't hit 143 and be playing with any consistency in Major League Baseball. He just looks like a AAA player. He looked overmatched. Hopefully he can regroup. Maybe that lights a fire under him to
Sorry, our guy Matt doing it again in the comment section. For our audio only listeners, comment here says only bitches love Sosa. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
Nice.
Great addition, sir.
And you can't rely on him. You can't rely on Hanser Alberto. These are this is the bottom of the barrel of the lineup that you're going with. There's nothing else. These are your depth pieces. And you don't have any other choice but to roll them out there, and hopefully it lights up, the demotion lights a fire under him. We'll see. I know the roster shuffle, they made 11 moves at the beginning of the week. Hopefully that lit a fire under these guys a little bit. We got Billy Hamilton, we got Tim back, so the vibes are there. You get Tim, who's the leader, spark plug at the top of the lineup, and they played better because of it. They played better the last couple of days. So. I do appreciate that the Sox are trying by shuffling the deck. I mean, maybe we're just reshuffling chairs on the deck of the Titanic, but it turned into a couple of wins those first 2 games. That was enough to get us excited, and I do appreciate the fact that they moved on from Larry Garcia in March. In April, they moved on from Jose Ruiz. These are guys who are under contract making millions of dollars. And then Jake Diekman too. These guys that are on the hot seat, they're just getting rid of them. So I kind of like that, and it's kind of an aggressive approach. And hopefully the guys in the clubhouse see people coming and going, here today, gone tomorrow, and maybe that lights a fire into them to start playing a little better. Hopefully, it's a very hopeful outlook for Lenyn Sosa, but hopefully it rings true.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's good kind of roundup summation of position players there. We touched on, Diekman getting DFA'd and other guys possibly coming back. I know Alex Colomé is up now. Peralta made his debut. Rough welcome to the show moment for him. But once again, I think that game was about to bust anyway, and he unfortunately was there. And the Twins placed the needle in the balloon right when he got on the mound there. So next one that we got, big one, Liam Hendriks, man, just incredible news. About to be on a rehab assignment here. This whole track back after all the way from the diagnosis to his treatments, to being on the video board on opening day saying he was finishing his last treatment, to being declared cancer-free, to his press conference, to his struck out cancer t-shirt that he was wearing, talking to the media yesterday. All of this just awesome. And then we get the news now. He's going on a rehab assignment soon. We're actually going to get him back in the bullpen. So I know everyone talks about this as a great, story, and no matter what happens with the White Sox, and I think Merck said it, they could go on and win a championship. This is already the best White Sox story of the year. totally agree. But let's talk impact here. I think this will help re-slot guys in where they need to be, bullpen wise.
100%. I mean, he comes in and automatically assumes that closer role that's been missing so far, and now Raylo can slot down one. So can Bummer. So can Jimmy Lambert. Now you got guys that you can think about with Santos and Middleton. Could turn around to be a formidable thing. This is supposed to be the strength of the team, and we sank $1 billion into the bullpen. so hopefully this kind of starts to turn it around. This was a pretty strong performance. Yesterday was. So hopefully these guys are getting right. But yeah, what a story to come back this quickly. And not only that, he's going on this rehab assignment, and they said he only needs like 4 or 5 appearances before he's ready to come back. So, we could be seeing Liam Hendricks at 35th and Shields in, a week to 10 days. That's it's amazing. And hopefully I can get there for the return. The White Sox will also have to have a lead in the 9th inning.
Right.
But yeah, that's going to be pretty epic to be there that day.
Yeah, all right. I'm looking forward to that as well. So, once again, reinforcements on the way. Great story. And then I think that does wonders for the vibes. We talked about, I think Sean and Tony touched on it very well in last night's post-game show about the vibes with Billy Hamilton being back. And obviously saw the hustle, him being able to score on a ground out when he was running in that game to provide some insurance and Wednesday's game. But that also adds a veteran presence there. Getting Liam back, I think that will help big time. And I know it's a little bit different position players versus pitchers, and even those guys have talked about it. But man, he's just an infectious personality. He's fiery. He's a competitor, and I think he'll elevate the game of everyone around him. Just from his presence will be uplifting, and then his passion for the game. If that guy doesn't, if he wants to come back and go right at it after receiving cancer treatment, why the hell am I, moping around about my bad inning that I had? Shit like that. Seriously, right. That's honestly how I view it. So
he's the set the tone guy.
Right, absolutely set the tone guy for the bullpen. All right, yeah. Let's look ahead. Weekend series starting a 7-game road trip. First up is 3 at Cincinnati. And I need to forewarn everybody that the Friday night game is an Apple TV broadcast, or Macintosh TV, as our guy NWI Steve would call it. But that's not the same as last year. Remember, you could go and just as long as you had the app, you could go and access it. Not the case this year. You got to have a paid subscription to Apple TV Plus. So if you're sailing the seas, I'll be joining you. But if you got it, it's on Apple TV, so expect that. I'd also recommend matching up Len DJ's radio call. That was a favorite of mine last year because it's not that all of those announcers are terrible, but I like our hometown call, and it is cool to get the radio along with a video feed every once in a while. So just kicking that off with that. But then looking at this weekend series, Lynn, Clevenger, Kopech, what are we expecting here this weekend?
Well, we'll see. I mean, Lance posted the picture of himself eating the salad the other day.
Right.
Taking Steve Stone up on his advice. Well, I should say his wife did, which is a strong move there on her part. Hopefully, Lance can start turning this around. I mean, he's had some good starts. He's had some really bad too. He's got an ERA above 7, and they're going up against Hunter Green, who's off to a great start. ERA under 3 so far. I'm not sure who Cincinnati has been playing recently, but they're 13-8 with a winning record at home. So this is, on paper, you see 13-18. That's not good, but they've got a good pitching matchup there against Lynn. But hopefully Lance can turn it around and keep us in the game. Hopefully the offense can produce some runs here.
Right. I'm hoping he can build on the majority of his outing from his game Saturday against the Rays, because we had a no-hitter going. No-hitter going in was in the 7th, and then wheels fell off. I know some of those runs ended up being charged to him after the fact, but, it was overall a solid outing, and that's a damn good lineup he was shutting down. So you're not going to have, like, once again, we need to reiterate, Cincinnati isn't a pushover, and you go and look at our records, like technically they should be the favorite, right? We're talking about who's the better team right now, but the lineup is not as potent as Tampa Bay's. I don't think any lineup right now, at least with the going on just based off of opening day to now, no lineup has been as good top to bottom as Tampa Bay, and there was a reason why they got off to such a torrid start. So hopefully Lance can harness that, and maybe an unfamiliar opponent too. They're seeing an NL team. I know we're going to start seeing more of these guys in the future, but it's not like we've been facing the Reds every year for the past 3 years. So
right,
I'm hoping some of that can play into our favor here. And then hitting baseballs out into that river space and that big stands out in left field. Home runs look cool at Cincinnati, and I want to see some upper deck bombs to left field, some Eloy and Robert pull shots, and then Yaz. Perfect time to bat drop and try and destroy that steamboat out there in right field.
Yeah, they need to. I mean, it's just it lacks so much power in that lineup, especially with Tim getting the day off today. It just looked rough on paper, but Tim will be in the lineup. Eloy is heating up, 3 hits today. Robert was on base 3 times, 2 walks and a hit. So hopefully those guys can keep it going, because they're the ones that are going to run the show here. And Andrew Vaughn too. Before I forget about him, we're going to mention his name too. You've got him and Benintendi as well. So you got about the top 5 guys in that lineup. Throw Yaz in there, hit some long balls, and get some runs on the board early for the big bastard. Hopefully he can hold it down in that series.
Right. One of my final thoughts here as we're winding it down on this edition of Sox on Tap is something that you had touched on in your post over at ontapsportsnet.com about Berger going down. He was your home run leader. Need to replace that power production. I know Eloy has been heating up as of late. He needs to continue it. Luis Robert coming out, nice 3-run shot in the first inning of Wednesday's game. Those guys need to keep it going. All those that you mentioned, Andrew Vaughn, it'd be nice to see, other guys too up and down the lineup, because there is home run potential there. But yes, I remember end of 2021, you were an absolute monster run creator. Let's get back to that. You had a day off here, so hopefully coming in fresh. That's what I'm looking forward to. All right. Last thing here, you got to pick the click for Friday's game. I know we don't know the lineup, but let's take a stab in the dark.
I'm going to go with Tony's baby boy, Gavin Sheets. If he's in the lineup, I have a pretty good feeling that he will be. We need with Berger out, he's really the only other option there to DH. I'm sure, Alberto or Soso play third. So lefty against the righty, I'll take that matchup. And hopefully Gavin can put one in the seats, because we haven't seen that from him in a while. He had an 0 for today. So I think he's due. I'm going with Sheets.
Yeah. All right. I like that. Going for the power guys. I'm going to go with the guy I haven't picked in maybe about a week, Eloy Jimenez. He's heating up. Yeah, you obviously saw the home runs in this series against the Twins. And I'll answer a question here. I got Matt asked, what's an upper deck bomb? Well, much like throwing in a fat Zin. Eloy Jimenez, pull shot out to left field in Cincinnati. They got those kind of tiered bleacher sort of weird setup out there, and if you can hit it up into those seats, they're kind of steep, so maybe you give someone a double nosebleed out there in the left field seats. So that's what I'm talking about with the upper deck bombs at Cincinnati. Very ballpark specific there. So all right, Besnik, been a good show. We'll be back Sunday fun day. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Crack a beer, go White Sox. Until next time, White Sox forever.
White Sox forever.